Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blind Spot. So in this episode, it's kind of interesting. I really appreciate it starting off with a memory, in particular a memory from like 20 years ago, of a young Roman and Remy playing a game, and basically Shepard would force them to play these games to see like, who'd win, and that would dictate who would get the chores. But Remy threw one game and it pissed her off, and she was like, you know what, Remy, you have to do everything now. Even Roman's like, that's not fair. It's like, oh, your sister thinks you're weak. And I guess maybe on some level that's why he doesn't like the way Remy treats him. Sometimes it's like maybe because, you know, his mom kind of instilled that in his mind of like, if she's trying to help you and protect you, she thinks you're weak. The fact of the matter is you need to handle things on your own. If you can't, you're pathetic and weak, you know? So, I mean, to be fair, we already know Shepard doesn't have the best motherly instincts, but turning every little thing everything probably growing up was like a test or challenge of trying to sharpen their minds and make them better tacticians and stuff like that. To be fair, I mean, that's kind of why Roman got to where he is, being who he is. Like, being able to do everything he's done so far this season is mainly because of Shepard. So it has give and take. It's actually kind of interesting because we actually got to see Shepard this episode. Her and Jane finally talked. The fact of the matter is she apologized because she's like, oh, like, it's because of me. You two had such a strong bond, and I try to pit you two against each other. Because I guess maybe in her mind, it's like, if I just let you two stay on the same side, maybe, just maybe, it would have worked out better for me. But it's because I put you two against each other, it kind of made her plans go splat, because her, like, most of their life, like, under her roof, all she did was pit them against each other growing up, even as adults and stuff like that. But she said something I thought was very fascinating. She was like, without Roman, you will die. Your bond is that strong and stuff like that, but if he dies, you die. And immediately my brain goes, because Jane was already complaining about headaches earlier this episode, and Roman's got his whole thing going on. I'm like, is there some correlation between that? I mean, because even before the orphanage, well, because they didn't know each other prior to the orphanage, right? Because that's where they met. But it's like, by the time, I mean, we saw that yeah, because they're not blood related, but it is there has to be something there. Like, not unless they contracted something at the same time. And like, because I'm wondering what that is. Because, like, you know, because obviously Kurt took that as like, no, she's just being crazy. But I was like, I think she literally means without each other they would die. She knows something she might not be telling them. Or maybe, I don't know, it's hard to say, because it's like, maybe it is just metaphorical, but the fact that she's got the headaches too just made me go, something's up there. Like, obviously we see Roman's situation. Are we about to see that happen to Jane too? Is it something that they contracted when they were kids? Is it something that, like, what's up with that? Because it's in this moment where Roman was leaving a message for someone. He's like, yeah, I know things have kind of gotten worse. I thought he was talking to his doctor, and he's like, but it was saying like, oh, I wish we could have been family. I'm like, is that a message he's leaving for Blake, or is that a message he's leaving for Jane? It's kind of hard to say. It seemed like it could, I want to say Blake most likely. Not unless that was meant to be for Crawford or something. I feel like it has to be for Crawford, because Crawford's the only other person that knows that he's sick. But that's why I was kind of thinking like the message had to be like, no, he was telling either Blake or Jane, because he knew, whatever the situation may be, it seems like he doesn't know he's going to make it through. So I guess that was kind of like a final message potentially to Crawford, kind of letting him know like everything's kind of going to plan, and just like, oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, would you even admit to Crawford that you're seeing stuff? I mean, once again, we still don't know why he wants Crawford dead. That's still something we haven't gotten back to yet. And it's like, oh, Jane will find out soon enough. So is it connected to what are potentially sick too? Like, is that kind of another reason why? Like, did Crawford, like, I mean, because there's a whole reason why, was it this? Yeah, the whole reason why Shepard couldn't have kids was because like the water she lived near was kind of polluted and stuff like that. Is it something similar to them, that they basically have something that they don't, like maybe Jane, well, because I feel like if it was something like that, it would have come up in their medical exams like at the beginning of the series, not unless it's something that just popped up now. I mean, did they ever once over Roman last season when after Jane zipped him? Like, did he ever get like any medical exams or anything like that during that time? I'm trying to think. Not that I remember. 'Cause I feel like something like that would have come up, but maybe it is something that's just like, I don't know, maybe it's just supposed to be contrast, like she's getting these headaches without realizing it's because her and Roman are that connected, that that's why she's feeling that because he's feeling that. Maybe that's all that's supposed to be. Maybe I am legitimately probably reading too much into it, but it's just something that was kind of crossing my mind what that was going down. So It's also interesting too because Shepard didn't even try to defend herself when Jane was like, "Yeah, even taking my daughter from her." It's like, "Oh, you didn't really have much to say about that." It's like, "Oh, I guess it was only a matter of time before you found out about Avery." So that was kind of interesting. I would have also loved to see a scene where we actually got to see Shepard and Avery interact in some shape or form. I mean, why would they? But obviously, it has to be hard for Jane because Jane's like, I want to ask her so many questions, but at the same time, I want nothing from that lady. She's done nothing. She's not. It's like it's kind of sad because no matter what the situation is, Jane still refers to her as like mom. It's like I want nothing to do with my mom. You could just call her Shepard, but you still call her mom. And that's kind of sad. And it's not Jane's fault. It's just kind of like, but I guess because even calling her mom doesn't recognize her as a mother. It's like, no, you are just some lady I once called mom, essentially. I think that's how Jane kind of treats it. Nevertheless, it's interesting because this all kind of ties into something that Roman was actually going to do with Sandstorm years ago, a while back. But Shepard was like, no, we got a better way of doing things. So, but now he's kind of implementing that plan. But Jane kind of actually remembered it when she was looking at like the layout. I was like, oh, what this is about. So basically, he was building a bomb. It seems like he was going to be attacking the UN, but the bomb was only a distraction because it was a means of getting to these particular a king and a president of these two particular countries that kind of had problems with each other, but were coming together for peace. Because this all goes back to Crawford's thing. Basically, there's a pipeline that's going to be set up between their two countries. Basically, this whole thing was kind of an assassination attempt so that he could get the pipeline pushed to the land that he bought. So I guess that's going to be like where they get their funding. I mean, granted, because I didn't even think about that. Like, where's the money going to come from to operate this large scale group? It's like, I know you have capital and money, but it's like, especially you spent like a crap ton of money on this deal. I mean, did he ever get that money back? Considering the fact is like, well, the dude he bought the land from is dead, died pretty much immediately after the deal. So did you get your money back from that? Probably not. So it's probably this land deal. That's probably why it's so important getting this pipeline, is because that will give him the money he needs to kind of run this little company, this whole plan he's got orchestrated of like military people, like a funded military unit country, the whole like, kind of quote unquote peace type of thing he's trying to create, one that's not bound by politics and stuff like that, blah, 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 his plan. So I guess that's how he's going to fund it, is with money from the pipeline. So that's what this whole thing has been about. Because I kept wondering, I was like, how the hell does this hotel him and Blake are checking out have anything to do with it? I was like, okay, this seems so disconnected. It's like, are you trying to keep a view on what's going to go down at the UN? Or I was like, are you going to take a sniper position at the UN? Like the hotel, like what is, it's like, no, this, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? The protocol typically with this situation is taking them to that exact hotel. It's like they're going to that hotel. It's like, right. Okay. It's like, for one, how did you get that information? So, I mean, I guess it's just like, Crawford probably has connections or something like that for you to get that information. I mean, fair, it might also be that dude he was talking to at the beginning of earlier parts of the episode, but the same dude that's with them later on. I thought it was kind of interesting with the whole them disguising themselves as CIA, messing with the computers and stuff like that. I would admit the cameras. I even love Rich being, that Roman is like brains and he's pretty. And it's just kind of like, okay, Rich, not the time. But to be fair, let's not forget, even Patterson was kind of fantasizing about Roman while she was unconscious, that on some level she kind of thinks he's hot. So let's not forget about that. I even love really quickly Rich being like, yeah, I'm totally writing this novel that's basically based on his experience with the FBI, except he's obviously making himself the hero and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, there's even kind of like a lab person who kind of helps from time to time named Peterson, that's supposed to be you, which I'm like, okay, that's, of course. Luckily, obviously there were some hitches in the plan, but luckily everything worked out. The two leaders didn't die. Roman kind of basically failed, so... Which obviously, basically everything's coming unhinged for Roman. Obviously, he's sick. Helping out with the whole Crawford situation isn't working because he's kind of on a losing end right now. So what's interesting, too, is the whole conversation about, well, what does Jane do? Because Jane's like, she's worried because she's like, what if it's true? What if, part of her dies when Roman dies? Because it's like, the whole situation of pointing a gun at him. It's like, I thought she was out of bullets. It's like, no, her gun jammed. Because it's like, she's like, what if subconsciously I didn't pull the trigger hard enough? Or stuff, it's like, what if subconsciously she doesn't want to kill him? Because she does love Roman, that there is this bond no matter what the situation is. Even with her memories gone, she still feels that bond. She feels that love between them that she's afraid she won't be able to do it. And like, what will happen if she did do it? Kill him. It is kind of interesting that later on she talks about the fact is that bond was between Remy and Roman. The fact is she's no longer Remy, she's Jane, and her other half is Kurt. So I'm curious to see, what really happens. Like, when the time comes, will Jane be able to be the one to do it? I kind of feel like it will either end up being Avery or Kurt. My money's kind of on Kurt, but I mean, you never know. Might do it just so that Jane doesn't have to be the one. He doesn't want to put, have to live with that on her conscience, so maybe. But that's kind of where my mind's kind of been about it for, about this whole, how it's going to potentially end for Roman. Which I love that even comes up. Like, obviously I brought up the whole turning things into a game. The moment he was losing, all he could think about is his mom putting a check on the board. A cross on the board, being like, oh yep, this is a victory for not cross an X, well, whatever, for Remy winning. So for him, the final thing he said to them is sent them a message being like, yep, it's time for a final game, sis. Winner takes all. It's like he's looking at this in the game just because psychologically, I'm sure, like I said, their mom probably treated everything in their life almost like a game. You either win or you lose. There's no if ands or buts about it, type of situation. So I don't know. We'll see what actually kind of goes down. But other than that, a lot of other interesting things kind of went down. One is the fact is the whole Tasha and Reed situation, which kind of turns into an apology thing of like, I'm sorry things between you and Meg didn't work. Where she was like, no, that's not your fault. But she's like, if I kept my mouth shut, it's like, no, your feelings weren't the problem. Because it's like, in all honesty, it's Reed's feelings that were the problem. And it's like, okay, so are we good? Can we be friends? It's like, yeah, I'm not going to ask you to be my best man anymore. But then there's the whole situation with Tasha I thought was kind of interesting, where it's like, Keaton was like, basically Tasha got caught stealing a phone. I was like, no, Tasha. But part of me wonders, like, but Tasha's smart. She knows they would have had access to like the cameras. They would have checked that. I guess maybe she figured the cameras were down at the time, so they wouldn't have caught that. I mean, they lost the feed, but the cameras weren't down. So I guess maybe she figured no one would notice the phone going missing, so it wouldn't be much of a big deal. But it's like, to be fair, like, it's leader of a country, so it's like their phone is very important, so obviously. But Tasha's call, and you see the look on Patterson's face. I'm like, oh man, no. Just when Patterson was good with the team, especially her and Patterson literally just made out last episode. It's like, oh, you're gonna do this? And then Tasha comes clean. She's like, yeah, Keaton told me to do it. And Keaton's like, honestly, I didn't tell you to do that, squad. What are you talking about? You probably did it yourself. Sell that, a leader's phone would sell good money. I was like, are you off the wagon again talking about her whole gambling addiction? I'm like, you piece of filth. You're throwing her under the bus. You're garbage. But there was also part of me that was cynical, like, is this part of the play? Are you going to pretend like you're going back and forth? But then it turns out, nope, he actually fired her. He's like, oh, because I can't trust you because she said too much. Because she finally admitted, even though they had evidence and everything, she was like, nope, Keaton has the phone. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, no, I gave it to you. He's like, you're crazy, Todd. It's like, you suck so much. You've made her do everything, do so much that jeopardized her friendship and her relationship with her friends and these coworkers, these people who are like family to her. And then you throw her under the bus like that. And it's like, you suck. Like I said, there's a cynical side of me. It's like, is this all part of some game or something? I don't know. They wanted Tasha's like, hey, if you're not with the CIA, it's like, you can just come back to the FBI. But for her, it's like, I can't. The fact of the matter is, if I come back, no one's ever going to trust you again because it's like, oh, that's Tasha? Oh, we can't work with her. She got fired from the CIA. She can't be trusted, that type of thing. And it's sad. So, which Reed and her make out, which she's like, whoa. Hey, you're just rebounding off of Meg. I just got fired. Let's not get too caught up in this right now because, like, we might not be doing this for the right reasons. But and then it's like, oh, like, you'll find reasons not to do something if you think about it too much. Which she walks away, but eventually they come back together. It's like, yes. Finally. Literally it happened while they're kissing, not just when they go back to Reed's place, but even when they were kissing, I was like, finally, it took you two so damn long. Like I said, oh yeah, it sucks about you and Meg, but I was like, hey, you and Dasha now. So I didn't think it was going to be like, obviously it's a very emotional situation. So I do like that Patterson was giving her the benefit of the doubt too. Like everyone on the team was. It's like, because they know what kind of person Keaton can be. So I think that's going to screw him over in the long run. I'm sure they don't. To be fair, they were just kind of like using it as intel. Like the phone was just meant for intel, so it wasn't for the purposes of like. I was wondering, it's like, could it be something that Tasha ends up telling them about, just to kind of spike Keaton? But it's like, no, because it most likely has nothing to do with this particular case. It's just kind of like, oh, we can get intel on this country situation by looking at this leader's phone, just because that's what the CIA does, so I'm just curious to see what they do with Keaton going forward, because it's just like, you just give, to be fair, he doesn't do that job to make friends. That job is just, you're likely to piss everybody off with that job. So the team really didn't like him anyway, but now even more so, they're just not going to like you, which I'm sure even Keaton doesn't care. It's like, whatever, it's a means to an end. This is the job. You do what the job is, no matter if you may not make friends doing it, but this is the job you signed up for. This is the job we have to do. Somebody has to do the dirty stuff, so. I guess also, too, when you actually think about Reed and Tasha's situation, too, it's like, well, they're also in that situation where they had to stop the bomb, and Reed almost dropped one of them, but Tasha luckily came through with a catch. So it's like they were kind of cutting down to the wire type of situation. So it's kind of like, okay, that's probably another thing too. It's like, yeah, our lives are almost in danger too. So it's, to be fair, when is your lives never in danger in this particular jobs? So like I said, just a great episode with a lot of interesting things kind of being set up. Obviously next week's episode is the season finale. I'm very interested to see how this all plays out, because it all comes down to this, like I said. Seems like Crawford, I'm curious, because they're obviously got enough to take down Crawford, but they need to find him, take him. And like I said, Roman sent out that final tattoo, which had that message for Jane. So what exactly is going to happen, we'll just have to wait till next week's episode to find out. But I'm also curious to see how things play out with Blake, because Blake knows, but she doesn't know what really is going down. Like, Roman, or rather Tom, said he was going to explain everything to her, but it's like he's got to finish some things up. So I'm wondering that next episode we're going to finally get him revealing everything. He wanted to before, but he thought about, like what it would mean. Like, I think Blake's the type of woman that even if she finds out the truth, I think she'll still love him no matter what, because it's like, oh, I know who you really are. You might not be Tom, but I know who you are, at the deep parts of your core. So, which is ultimately the reason why he's doing all this. He wants to be loved, so is Roman going to die? I don't know. It could literally go either way. Either Jane's going to kill him or not. I think it's going to depend on a lot of things. I'm curious to see how it all plays out. Also, like, will they take Crawford down? Will Crawford get away and continue to be a big baddie? Will we end up seeing actually Blake kind of take over and become the baddie? Could that be the situation that they're setting up for her? Who knows? We'll have to wait till the season finale next week to find out exactly what goes down. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.